Senator from South Carolina.
Thank you very much. I appreciate what Senator Murkowski is trying to do. To me, this is sort of a balance of power issue. The courts ruled, I think in 2007, that greenhouse gases could be regulated under the Clean Air Act. Senator Voinovich is right. The Congress has never made that decision. There's been efforts in the past to get carbon pollution regulation by the Clean Air Act, and it's never passed legislatively. The courts have spoken. The tool being used here today is a legislative tool available to the Congress to basically put regulatory powers in check. And what we're doing by passing this amendment is basically stopping the EPA from regulating carbon. And here's the real rub. If we stop them, are we going to do anything? And my view is that we need to do several things to replace the EPA. The EPA regulation of carbon cannot provide transition assistance to businesses. They don't have the flexibility, the tools necessary to create rational energy policy. It would create an economic burden at a time we need to create economic opportunity. So the regulatory system of dealing with carbon pollution, I think, is the wrong way to go. But to do nothing would be equally bad. To do nothing means that China is going to develop the green energy technology that's coming in the 21st century. So what I would propose that the Congress, once we stop the EPA, that we create a rational way forward on energy policy that includes clean air and regulation of carbon. Number one, the trust fund that's used to build roads and bridges is tremendously underfunded. Senator Inhofe and others have challenged the Congress time and time again to do something about shortfalls in the Highway Trust Fund. To the transportation community, if you're listening out there, you have a chance as a broader package to be part of a broader deal to get money for the Highway Trust Fund. But you'll never do it standing alone. We're not going to raise taxes to put money into the Transportation Trust Fund, and that's all we do. I think the transportation sector needs to be looked at anew. How can we lower emissions on the transportation side, reduce our dependency on foreign oil, and replenish the trust fund? I would argue the Congress could come up with policies that would dramatically reduce CO2 emissions coming from cars and trucks without a cap on carbon. That we could have incentives on the transportation side to develop alternative vehicles, battery-powered cars, hydrogen-powered cars, hybrid cars in different fashions that would actually break our dependency on foreign oil. If you take this debate and separate it out from our dependency on foreign oil, you've made a huge mistake. $439 billion was sent overseas by the United States last year to buy oil from countries who don't like us very much. When you talk about controlling carbon, you also ought to be talking about energy independence. So I would suggest the Congress look at the transportation sector with a comprehensive approach that will reduce our dependency on foreign oil, that will create vehicles that are more energy efficient and produce less carbon to clean up the air, and you can do all this without a cap, and put money in the trust fund to rebuild bridges and roads that are falling apart as America grows. These are jobs that will never go to China. So we need to have a vision on transportation that needs to be part of our broader vision. Now, when it comes to breaking our dependency on foreign oil, we need to use less oil in general. The President's right. A low-carbon economy is a safer America, a cleaner environment, and I think a more prosperous America. But we have natural fossil fuel assets in this country. We have oil and gas, and the Gulf oil spill is a tremendous, catastrophic environmental disaster. But if we overreact and say that we're going to stop exploring for domestic oil and gas, 9 million barrels a day comes from domestic exploration. We use 21 million barrels a day. The people in the Mideast would cheer that policy. The biggest winner of stopping domestic exploration for oil and gas would be OPEC nations. So it's not in our national security interest, it's not in our economic interest to make a rash decision on oil and gas exploration. I would encourage the Congress to slow down, find ways to safely explore for oil and gas, and make it part of an overall energy vision that will allow us to break our dependency on foreign oil. Now, when it comes to job creation, wind, solar, battery, nuclear power, all of the energy efficiency, green technology that's going to come in this century is going to come from China if we don't get our act together. So we need a rational energy policy that would incentivize alternative energy to be developed in America before the world takes over this emerging market. That means incentives for wind, solar, and yes, nuclear power. 20% of our power in America comes from the nuclear industry. 82% of the French economy power comes from the nuclear industry. Surely we can be as bold as the French. If you had a renaissance of nuclear power in this country, you would create millions of jobs in the course of building nuclear power plants. We could come up with ways to treat the waste. And I want to say this about President Obama. He has been very good on nuclear power. His administration, Secretary Chu, has been excellent in trying to develop incentives to expand nuclear power in a safe fashion. So I want to
Senators, 5 minutes have expired.
Time has expired. Carbon is bad. Let's do something about it in a common sense way. You don't have to believe in global warming to want clean air. One last thought. All this pollution coming. Could I have 30 seconds, please?
Without objection.
This idea about what to do with carbon. You don't have to believe in the planet's going to melt tomorrow. But this idea that what comes out of cars and trucks and coal-fired plants is good for us makes no sense to me. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd be doing this world a great service if we could clean up the air in America. We'd be doing the next generation a great service. And here's the key to it. Can you clean up the air and make it good business? I believe you can. Let's pursue both things, good business and clean air.
Madam President, I would ask that whatever extra time the senator got would be